Okay, let's jump right into it. Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take all that material you've gathered, articles, notes, whatever you've got, and we really dig in to find those, golden nuggets of knowledge. And today we're looking at something, well, really practical you sent over. It's a transcript from a YouTube video aimed right at English learners, focusing on common questions and answers. It reads almost like a rapid-fire guide, like a conversational cheat sheet for those everyday chats you always have.
Yes, exactly. And our mission here, I think, is to look beyond just the list itself. We want to explore the patterns in these common questions and answers. What do they actually tell you about how English conversation works day to day? And how can understanding these underlying structures, well, give you a shortcut to feeling more fluent, more comfortable? The real value, isn't just memorizing answers, but seeing why these questions, these specific types of questions and answers, are so foundational.
Right, okay. So let's unpack this source then. It really does feel like a basic toolkit, doesn't it?
Hmm.
For putting together simple conversations. It's all built around these sort of immediate back and forth interactions. The real bread and butter of daily talk.
Precisely. And what's really interesting, I find, is the source's laser focus on just utility. These aren't abstract grammar points, they're tools. Tools for getting through real situations. It might seem simple, but that structure gives you a really solid base if you're, building those conversation skills.
And, well, right off the bat, a pretty big section seems to be dedicated to maybe the most common thing we do. Asking for stuff or getting permission. The classic examples are all there. Can I ask you something? May I come in? Would you mind closing the window? Hey, even can I borrow your pen? Stuff you hear constantly.
Hmm. And this brings up a really important point, actually. What is the difference between asking, can I, versus may I, or using would you mind, really teach you? It's not just about asking. It shows you that English encodes different levels of politeness right into how you ask. Getting that subtle difference between can I, more casual, and may I, a bit more formal, maybe more polite, or using would you mind, which is, very polite, asking if it's an inconvenience. That's a powerful little nugget for sounding natural. And the source gives you those direct, confident answers too. Sure, go ahead. Yes, please come in. Not at all. Sure, here it is. So it helps you respond appropriately as well.
Okay, that makes sense. So once you can ask for things, the conversation often shifts to, well, connecting with the other person, right? And the source covers that too, checking in, talking about how someone's doing, their feelings. We see questions like, are you free right now? Or are you feeling okay? Or even, why are you sad? Why are you excited? Also things like, how would you describe yourself? Or that hypothetical, how would you feel if you won the lottery?
Yeah. Right. And these questions, along with those like really concise answers, just a little sleepy, I failed my test, I'm excited because my English is improving, I'd be thrilled. They teach you how to make those simple personal connections. They give you the basic script for asking how someone is or sharing a simple feeling or, your current state. Notice how short the answers are. Perfect for those quick exchanges.
Yeah, very direct. And then building on connecting with people, you often need to know about their actual world, like where they are or how to get somewhere. Location and directions are in there too. So we find things like, where are you from? Where do you live currently? What's your address? And the practical stuff. How do I get to your house? And how do I get to the subway station?
Yes, and this section is basically a mini lesson in essential special language. It really highlights how useful simple prepositions are, like from, in, at. And those key direction words, turn left, go straight, walk 2 blocks. The answers give you those building blocks directly. From Italy, in Venice, at 124 Maple Street, turn left at the traffic light. It's fundamental stuff, not just for navigating the physical world, but for talking about it too.
Definitely. And then often you want to know what people can actually do. Abilities, skills that comes up a lot in conversation. And yeah, the source has examples like, can you dance? Can you swim? Do you speak French? Can you speak English? No, also getting more specific. How fast can you type? And how well do you speak Spanish? How good are you at math? But even, are you a quick learner?
Hmm. This pattern, using can you a lot, and then variations like how well or how good. That's really your go-to structure for asking about skills or what someone's capable of. And again, the answers give you these direct models for saying yes or no, or indicating a level. No, I can't dance at all. Yes, but not very well. Yes, I can speak English fluently, 80 words per minute. I am excellent at math. Yes, I learn very quickly. It basically equips you to talk about what you can or maybe can't do.
Okay, this next bit I found really interesting. Beyond just facts or abilities, the source gets into describing things, often using that how does it structure. Like how do I look? How do I sound?
Yeah.
But also sensory things. How does it taste? Oh, how does it feel?
Yeah.
How does the soup taste? How does the cake smell?
Ah, yes. This is such a useful pattern because it lets you talk about sensory experiences or give feedback really directly. Instead of needing, complicated sentences, these questions paired with just simple adjectives, fantastic, confident, spicy, soft, delicious, sweet, they give you a direct line to talking about qualities and sensations. Mastering this is, I think, a key step towards adding a bit more richness to your descriptions and conversation.
Yeah, I can see that. And then finally, the source seems to touch on understanding someone's regular life, their routines, their habits. So questions like, how do you start your day? How do you stay healthy? How often do you travel? How do you relax after work? And very relevant for the audience, how do you improve your English?
Right. These questions use how do you, or sometimes how often, to explore methods, processes, or how frequently someone does something. And the simple answers in the source, I start with a cup of coffee, I eat well and exercise regularly, I travel once a year, I watch TV or read a book, I practice every day. They give you models for talking about your daily life, your habits. It's basically asking, tell me about your process for doing X. Simple, but effective.
So, okay, looking at all these different types, then asking for things, checking in, location, skills, describing stuff, habits. What's the real big picture takeaway here? What are those gold nuggets you mentioned from this source for someone learning conversation?
Well, I think the key insight isn't just that it's a list of useful Q&As. It's that it highlights a relatively small core set of question patterns that actually unlock a huge amount of everyday talk. These patterns, they're like the fundamental building blocks. Can I isn't just for borrowing a pen. It's the engine behind all sorts of basic permission requests. And how do you isn't just about starting your day. It's how you ask about any kind of process or method. So by really focusing on and internalizing these core structures and their typical direct answers, you gain confidence. You gain a framework you can then use to build, well, thousands of different specific sentences. That repetition in the source, it might look basic, but it's actually helping you sort of hardwire these crucial patterns into your brain. It's almost like a shortcut to building that conversational intuition.
Huh. It's like collecting the essential Lego bricks, isn't it? The ones you need to build almost any simple structure you want.
That's a great analogy, yes. And connecting this to the bigger picture, this kind of focused, pattern-based practice like we see in this source, it's incredibly effective for getting you fluent in those really common high-frequency situations. It helps you get past that initial hesitation, that feeling of, oh, how do I even start asking this?
It does make you wonder, though, once you feel comfortable with these basic Q&A pairs, how do you start stitching them together? How do you move from a simple, are you free? Yes. To something longer, a more complex or flowing conversation?
That's a really good point. And it raises an important question for learners, doesn't it? What are the essential tools, maybe connectors or follow-up questions or transition phrases that you need to link these basic building blocks together? How do you create that continuous flowing dialogue?
Something for you to definitely mull over as you practice putting these fundamental patterns into action.